loud. Everyone can hear me? Welcome, everybody. Very excited to have everybody in the room today. We have a full crowd. Welcome to Sheridan College, the Hazel McCallion campus. Consider for a moment the most notorious cyber criminals in the world. You might picture anonymous figures operating from remote corners of the globe, orchestrating attacks from behind layers of encryption, causing widespread destruction on large-scale economies, and bringing massive critical infrastructures to a grinding halt. You might even picture criminals demanding exorbitant ransoms, holding hostage the very lifeblood of our very digital existence, our critical data. But what if I told you that the most insidious threats lie within our own organizations, hiding in the gaps of our own defenses? These vulnerabilities, often manifested as silos, stem from organizations prioritizing short-term solutions while neglecting the broader strategic perspective. Silos are the Achilles heel of cybersecurity. Acting as our weakest point, they fragment our view, hinder communication, and create openings that threat actors are all too eager to exploit. As cyber threats evolve, we must recognize that our greatest adversary might just be the internal barriers we have unintentionally built in an effort to strengthen our own defenses. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nisreen Shams, Assistant Vice President of Business Development at Stratagem. It's an absolute pleasure to have each and every one of you here today. Welcome to our Mississauga Cybersecurity Forum. Today, we will explore the theme of igniting your cybersecurity transformation and delve into the concept of embracing security as a service. Each one of you here today holds a very vital role in shaping the future of our cyber defense. Thank you for being part of this very important conversation. The reality today is that enterprises continue to spend millions of dollars buying multiple tools and technologies in an effort to defend their digital presence. Yet we continue to see a significant spike in breaches and ransomware attacks globally. Why is that? It's a question I think it's crossed everybody's mind here in this room and in this industry. The challenge lies in the complexity of the modern cyber threat landscape. The industry recently witnessed a prime example with Suncor. Even those organizations with substantial investments in technology still face the ongoing challenge of effectively integrating and maximizing the use of these resources for optimal outcomes. So what is the consequence of that? Fragmented security postures, offering fertile ground for cyber criminals to exploit vulnerabilities. Without a proactive approach and a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy, even the most advanced tools may prove insufficient in defending against complex cyber attacks. As we gather here today, it's not merely to acknowledge this challenge, but to rise above it. The Saga Security Forum is our rallying point, a platform to build a community around breaking down these silos. Tonight is an exploration in transformation. Using the power of Stratagem's industry-leading security-as-a-service platform and Fortinet's security fabric, we will share with you today expert insights and the blueprint for transforming your cybersecurity environment into a world-class defense platform. With that being said, let's kick off the program tonight by introducing some key members in our valued academic partnership with Sheridan College in cybersecurity education. Stratagem's initiative with Sheridan College aims to elevate the educational experience and cultivate top-tier talent, addressing the pressing need for skilled cyber professionals today. I would now like to introduce our two key representatives from Sheridan College who will shed more light on this partnership. First, Kristen Armstrong, Associate Dean of Applied Computing and from the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology, Kristen brings over a decade of invaluable experience in educational leadership. Her passion for education, particularly mathematics, is exemplified by her commitment to learning and teaching. Kristen thrives on creating opportunity and is devoted to accessible education. As well, I would also like to introduce Mark Orlando to the stage at the same time, Associate Dean from the School of Applied Computing at the Trafalgar campus. With a tenure dating back to 2001, Mark holds an extensive background in business and information systems. Mark is a staunch proponent of applied research, a passion he actively incorporates into his teaching methodologies. His dedication to bridging theory with practical knowledge empowers students with vital insights and skills. Please help me welcome Kristen and Mark to the stage.
I don't know how to follow that. Thanks, Nisreen. So thank you for having us here today, and welcome to the Hazel McCallion campus. As Nisreen said, this wonderful room, this is our newest campus at Sheridan, and it's nice to have you all in this venue. I'm Kristen Armstrong. I'm the Associate Dean of Applied Computing from Davis campus, and I want to provide you a brief background on what we do here at Sheridan before we get on to the partnership and great announcement that we have. So in Applied Computing, we offer Canada's first cyber degree and the longest running. It's the Honours Bachelor of Information Sciences with a specialization in cybersecurity. I think we have some alumni in the room. Hi, Angelina. It's a 4-year degree. Students learn the fundamentals of computer science principles, and then they take on specialized courses covering multiple aspects of cybersecurity. So that's computer and network security, ethical hacking, database security, but I think this is the room I don't need to explain that to. So lots of different courses. It also incorporates an 8-month internship. So up to 28 weeks, our students go out and gain real-world cybersecurity experience in the workforce. And that's because we want them to be industry ready. We need that transition to be smooth when they leave our walls. We have a lot of successful alumni, the working in fields of the financial industry, quantum computing security research, and so forth. And we know that the world of cybersecurity, as we'll see, has a demanding workforce, and we're working hard to meet those demands by expanding our academic portfolio. And that's where the partnership with Stratagem comes into play. Mark and I have a vision of building a cyber ecosystem. So what we mean by an ecosystem is there's multiple aspects, multiple moving parts. There's pathways in and out of that. There's streams. There's opportunities for graduates to move in and out of Sheridan as they upskill and continue to move forward in the cyber industry. As of last week, we expanded our delivery of the cyber degree in Brampton. So we're now offering the honors degree at the Davis campus for the first time. So we're excited about that. Excuse me. We're also developing a cyber diploma. It'll be a 2-year certification that's starting in May, and we're working on a cloud security graduate certificate. So that would be something graduates would take beyond their original post-secondary education. And then we're going to have, again, multiple pathways and bridging, so students can go from the diploma, gain some experience in the industry, move into the degree, and potentially take the graduate certificate or a micro-credential. This sort of work is certainly enhanced by our industry partners by providing constructive feedback on our programs and ensuring that we maintain a competitive edge. Last year, Stratagem graciously provided us with a donation of $500,000. With this gift, we are able to expand our digital footprint and build capacity to deliver academics that are fully submerged in real-world application. A large portion of these finances will contribute to creating a virtual and a physical cyber range at the Davis campus, and virtual in the sense that all students will be able to access it regardless of their location. This is for students to experience what it's like to be working in a cyber center that Stratagem has, or any other range and environment they may find themselves in once they graduate. What I'm very excited to announce today is that in partnership with Sheridan and the brain of Tala, who will be speaking with you later, we're launching a new micro-credential, and it's coming this January. I'll provide perspective actually first. A micro-credential is rapid training programs that are offered within post-secondary institutions, and they're to help students get the skills that employers need, and obviously in a very quick way. Their main purpose is to either retrain or upgrade skills to find new employment or better themselves in the field that they're already in. So the micro-credential that we're offering is the Cyber Intelligence Analyst. It's 14 weeks, it's 54 hours, so it'll be 4 hours per week in the classroom. It'll be full of instruction and lab work, and again, this is part of the range we hope to host it within. The course, the goal is to apply practical defense strategies for our students once they complete the micro-credential. This will involve security operations and its 3 pillars. It'll involve network defense and network monitoring, endpoint detection and response, and vulnerability and patch management. And it'll also be utilizing the SIEM tool, so the security incident and event management and its best practices. The greatest thing, and the marketing team's pretty thrilled about this at Sheridan, is this is the first micro-credential where if a student gains 95% average or above, they're guaranteed an interview at Stratagem. Yeah. So we're really hoping that that'll be a key attractor for people to come and work at such a reputable company, and really excited. It's in development right now, and it's going to be housed in our e-store, which is our extended education department on the Sheridan website. We have 2 other micro-credentials in there in cyber right now. They're offensive and defensive micro-credentials, and we really think this will complement the portfolio that's there. So thank you to Nisreen, thank you to Tala, and thank you to John for their tireless efforts to make this happen, and the financial contribution that's obviously giving us a bigger footprint in the industry. And with that, I'll move it over to Mark.
Well, now that's a hard act to follow. So Sheridan has a rich history of innovation. We heard about a lot of that from Kristen. You know, we did have the first cybersecurity degree of its kind in Canada, and since then it's grown and become very well recognized. We've heard about the new diploma that's being developed, the grad cert, the micro-credentials, of course, the cyber range. It's allowing students to test and develop their skills. So, you know, what more is there? Well, there is just one more thing. Building upon Sheridan's rich history in research and innovation through the Center for Mobile Innovation, we're now going to be getting into the research space in cybersecurity. Now, this isn't just the research that you hear about in PhD papers. This is real applied research, which we call undergraduate research, where we partner with industry on every project and create practical solutions to real-world problems, existing, new, emerging problems. And through this partnership of industry and academia, we can find real solutions that will bring us all into the future and create a safer world. And we hope some of you would consider reaching out to us for problems even that you just are sitting on the side of your desk that you just don't have time to deal with. We have an immense, very robust capstone culture, and if those of you that don't know what capstone is, it's a final project that students do in their final year of study in the cybersecurity degree. And we're also trying to build on that strength with actual, as I said, applied projects. And often there's government funding that's available for these types of projects, so we can do them in really meaningful and cost-effective ways. If you are interested, please reach out to one of the Sheridan team. You see us with our badges. I brought some cards with me. We'd love to have a discussion about how you think we could partner with you in the research space. We really want to be known as leaders in this field to add on to all the other wonderful stuff we're doing, and we'd love you to join us in that journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kristen and Mark. We're very excited to see how this partnership is going to continue to flourish and for many years to come. And now I'm very excited to turn our attention to the fireside chat. The main reason everyone's here today is to listen to all these heavy-hitting speakers. And I would like to invite at this time the moderator and the panelists to take their seats at the very front, and we'll begin very shortly. looking great up here, guys. So tonight we're privileged to welcome some of the most influential figures in the realm of cybersecurity. These individuals not only steer the course in difficult terrain, but also actively participate in thought leadership in this industry. The mission of this discussion is to delve into the theme of igniting your cybersecurity transformation. Using Strategm's leading security-as-a-service platform and Fortinet's security fabric, our speakers will share expert insights and unveil the blueprint for elevating your cybersecurity strategy. To kick us off, allow me to introduce the key members on stage today. And a quick note, I request everyone to engage us in a final clap at the very end, so we'll hold off until all introductions are done. So to my right here, we'll start with Ash Rajendra, Vice President of Chief Information Officer of Superior Plus, distinguished leader in the field of cybersecurity. He is not just a seasoned professional, but a visionary catalyst for transformation. With a rich and diverse career in cybersecurity consultancy and tech startups, Ash brings a wealth of expertise to the table. His ability to navigate and drive innovation has earned his trust among many leaders in the industry. Next to Ash, we have John Menezes, President and CEO of Strategm. John Menezes is a cybersecurity visionary. With a remarkable 30-year career as the founder, president, and CEO of Strategm since 2015, John's visionary leadership and unwavering commitment to innovation has reshaped the cybersecurity landscape. An entrepreneurial force, he continues to challenge norms, pushing the industry towards a more secure digital future. At Strategm, he takes the helm, guiding businesses to navigate the digital realm with resiliency. Chevelle Seth, Chief Technology Officer for Grand River and St. Mary's Hospital. Chevelle stands as a distinguished force in healthcare technology today. Over 2 decades of leadership, he holds a wealth of experience in deploying complex and integrated solutions. Chevelle's current focus lies in leveraging technology to enhance patient care through business transformation and artificial intelligence. And last but not least, Rafi Wanunu, Director of Systems Engineering for Enterprise Accounts at Fortinet. Distinguished 25-year career, Rafi has led major teams in finance, insurance, and technology enterprises on a global scale. Since joining Fortinet in 2009, he has played a pivotal role in propelling the company to the forefront of the Canadian cybersecurity landscape. Beyond his professional endeavors, Rafi is deeply committed to nurturing the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. And last but not least, I would like to introduce our moderator, Lynn Coles, Revenue Enablement and Corporate Communications Executive at Fortinet, with a background that spans B2B sales and broadcast journalism. Her exceptional ability to bridge communication gaps and strategic insights has won the trust of many C-suite leaders in Canada's leading brands. As a key figure in Fortinet's global sales enablement team, Lynn drives impactful field engagement programs, solidifying her status as an invaluable asset to the industry. Everyone, please join me in a large round of applause for our panelists. There will be a Q&A session right after this, so we would love for you guys to start thinking about questions for these experts here today. And with that being said, Lynn, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Nasreen. I am so excited to be here. What a pleasure, what an honor. We're going to talk cyber. Have you noticed, up until recently, it wasn't really a topic of conversation? In fact, if you went to a social event and said, what do you do for a living? And you went, oh, I'm in cyber. Yeah, where are the hors d'oeuvres? Where are they? Now, of course, we are the most important topic. We are the topic in boards. We are the topic in the media. Couldn't have picked a better career. I'm excited for the partnership that you have with Sheraton, John. Excited for the students here who are joining us today, and of course the business leaders. So this panel, what a pleasure. Between the 4 of you, easily 100 years approaching in cybersecurity. not their age, but in terms of the powerful knowledge that they bring. This is a dream team and a terrific opportunity. So I can't wait to get started. And you're also visionaries. That's a term that gets thrown around a little too often, but a visionary is someone who can not only see the future, which John has done, but someone who can plan for the future. And if that isn't something that our boards and our executive teams are looking for in cyber these days, then I don't know what is. We need visionaries, people who are bold. So I'm going to put the first question as an open one to everyone on the panel to talk about your vision. You're brilliant people. You could have chosen any career, any path, but cyber was the passion for you. Cyber was where you found your calling. So I'd like you to describe the current state of cybersecurity, particularly as it relates to digital transformation, because that's what's driving all of the fourth industrial revolution, quite frankly. So who would like to kick it off?
Go ahead, Rafi.
Okay. So I actually think we're at a fascinating place in cyber, in that the industry has produced phenomenal tools, and the customers have purchased those tools, but we're not making use of the data. So customers are buying tools, we're generating a ton of data, but we're not getting any value out of that data. And I think that's why the breaches are happening. I think that's the root of the problem, right? I think that if you look at people like MGM, they have tools. MGM has every tool, but they're not utilizing those tools. There's so much data. They're not getting the value, the automation, the AI, all that management of that data is not happening. And I think that's why you see breach after breach after breach, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about how people like Stratagem help solve that problem, but that is a foundational issue right now, is that, if you look at MGM, how did they get to the actual room keys? That tells you they were in the system, they had breached multiple systems, down to the actual room key, so you couldn't get into your room. So the problem is the volume of data and the inability to actually generate value from that data.
Thanks so much, Rafi. Who's ready to go next?
I can take the next one. Thank you so much for having me out today. It's great to see some old friends in the audience and the next generation of technology leaders in this room. That's super, super exciting. And also great to learn about some of the specialized programs that certainly didn't exist back when I was in college, which was more than a few years ago. So, to your specific question, I think when you think about transformation, particularly as a modern CIO or CTO operating in a board-driven environment, historically, the one question that would always get asked is, what's the state of cyber? And I think when you start layering in things like generative AI and all the data tagging and manipulation required to make that stuff work, it starts to become very accretive to digital transformation. So, if you're in a more modern organization today, you're not so much worried about the power of the tool sets, but you're worried about what you don't want the AI to learn. So, what keeps me up at night is, how do we ensure that we have the right tools internally that can allow our staff, our employees, my peers, to be as successful as possible? I'm not one of these shut it all down kind of guys. I like open environments. But at the same standpoint, I don't want our key customer contact list fed into ChatGPT, right? I don't want algorithms we're working on specific to machine learning in our industry fed into ChatGPT. And so when you sort of backflush all of that, you get back to traditional, old, good cyber principles, which are, you need to understand your perimeter, you need to understand what's important to you and the kind of locks you want to put in front of it, and you need to make it shockingly easy for everybody to use. If the lock takes 10 minutes to open, you're going to leave the door open. It's human nature. So I think as we start seeing this next generation of tools that are going to ingest more and more specialized corporate data, many of the tendrils we're used to in the cyber world are going to become more and more apparent for us to rely on.
I love that you brought in generative AI, because I think we'll be talking a lot more about AI. Thanks so much, Ash.
I can go up next. Thank you so much for having us here. I would say congratulations to Stratagem and John. They've done a great job over the years. I remember this organization roughly 5 years ago, and when we started looking into investing and looking in partnering with Stratagem, which was a great thing. So congratulations to the whole team. Looking at healthcare, that's where I come from, and there has been quite a bit of challenge keeping up the data secure, keeping in mind what has happened recently over the globe, where we have become a target out there. It's important for us to keep our security always evolving. Cybersecurity has always been on the mind for us to ensure we're using the best of the platforms to secure our environment. But it always takes one step forward for some perpetrator to get into your environment, even if you have the best of the tools out there. We had some great partnership with Stratagem, where we started utilizing them as managed security providers, which we can talk in more detail, where it was more for us where we can concentrate on things which a hospital should be concentrating on. We are not the experts in the industry, nor we can actually house the experts, so it was important for us to look at those things from the evolving factor. And one thing that I want people to really think about, the biggest challenge that we've seen in healthcare is the data is evolving, the data is growing, and now we want to use that data for research and analytics, which is really talking about population health. So that's been the biggest vision for us, and that's been the focus for us over the years.
Thank you so much, Cheval. And when you're in the healthcare space, that really touches deeply and closely to all of us. And we've seen headlines. We saw sick kids, etc. So thank you for positioning that statement for us. John?
Well, thank you very much, and thanks very much to all my panelists for being here. I know you're all really busy people, and to take up your time. I know Ash was complaining about driving to Mississauga, and I said it's worth the drive to Mississauga.
Specifically, I complained about driving west of Yonge Street, just so we're clear.
So digital transformation was, starting in the early 2020s, was getting on. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, the digital transformation has accelerated. And it accelerated at such an amazing pace that in the 2 years of COVID, or the 3 years of COVID, we've actually done 25 years of digital transformation advancement. And what is the key to digital transformation? Cybersecurity. Why? Because nobody wants to go back to the office. Everybody wants to work from home. We want work-life balance. And guess where all the data is? The data is all in the cloud. When we started Stratagem in 2015, cloud was a bad word. Like if I talked about cloud and security, you'd think I've lost my mind. How it has changed in the last 8 years. And what Stratagem is doing is we are trying to innovate so that we can help customers like Ash and Cheval be more innovative in their business opportunities. And that's the issue. How do we help customers, whether you're in retail or finance or healthcare, how do we help you digitally transform your business so you become more efficient, more effective, and yet keep your data secure? And no matter what we try and do, and no matter how much money we're spending, we're still getting hacked left, right, and center. And so what Stratagem is doing and why we're working so closely with Sheridan is trying to figure out how can we just make it a little bit more difficult for the hackers to get through. I believe that the hackers are lazy like all of us. And if we can just prevent them from breaching in the first 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, they'll move on to the next enterprise. That's all we're looking to do. We're never going to be perfect. We just want to make it a little bit more difficult for them to break through. And if we can make it a little more difficult for them, Cheval and Ash and Rafi will sleep a lot better every day.
I love that, John. Thank you. I hope, especially for our students here, but for everyone, you're starting to think about some of the great questions that just these opening comments are triggering for you. If you're like me, you probably need to maybe jot some down. We'll have mics circulating afterwards, but just in this beginning moments, we've got generative AI, we've got the digital transformation that's going to cause your business to grow or be more successful or be undermined, and the public sector, so anyone in those industries. Great, let's go into our very first question, and it's to you, Ash. So you work with Superior Plus, and I think a few of us will remember some headlines not too long ago with Colonial Pipeline. The minute you're in oil and gas, again, it's very profound for us, very real. So what are the unique cybersecurity challenges that you face in your industry, and how are you getting ahead of them?
Sure, that's a great question. I'd say there's a couple things. First of all, if you look at an industry like ours, which is a tenured business, I think we've been around plus 70 years. The industry's been around forever. A number of these organizations sweated the assets for a very, very long period of time, right? no need to reinvest. It's working. Let's just keep going. So, things like aged edge equipment, software not in the cloud, multiple panes of glass, no specific cyber skill on the internal teams is a pretty standard inheritance in this industry, or for any mature business. So I'd say, the first is kind of repairing the gaps, repairing the debt, making the business shockingly easy to function, right? There's no reason we need 8 different tool sets and we can have one. There's no reason we need administrators to look at 5 different panels or even have that expertise in-house and perhaps choose to partner. So I'd say in our case, you're absolutely right. There's a sensitivity around PLC and SCADA gear. We use that extensively in our business, and it's something we pay a lot of attention to. I'd say time to response is critical, so we're less worried about data theft than we are, not to say it's not top of mind, but we're less worried about that than we are actual penetration that can affect our ability to run the business. Because when we go down, it means that somebody may not be getting heating fuel. It means a generator may not work, right? So very, very real life, real time consequences. So I'd say for us, it's keeping up with the legislation. So, Canada's got some new stuff brewing there. The States does, both specific to our industry as well as from a privacy law perspective. So that's all going to hit us for any large publicly traded organization. And response time. So we're all about response time, and that's one of the reasons I love partnering with John and his organization with the focus on extensive automation. So we share his feeling that it's not a question of somebody, if there's a thief knocking at the door, it's going to happen. It happened pretty recently in our case, but it's the ability to intercept that knock, see the threat actor, knock it out as quickly as you can, and that sort of response time. So for me, it's you need the tool sets, you need all the great stuff, you need the policies, you need the procedures, you need good business partners, but what you really need is that automation that kicks in when you see a threat and is just on auto fire. Because the reality is we need it to respond faster than the humans. And so in our case, that's a huge part of our focus, is that constant automation. How do we get the humans involved in really intelligent design of the solutions, but we actually don't want humans involved in execution? The machines will move faster, and they're good at it. They are awake at night, I'm not.
I love that. The machines are going to be more important to us, and we're going to be relying on them. And of course, that might present some vulnerabilities too. So the cyber fabric, the spread of our security has to be as comprehensive as our dreams and visions for our businesses. Shival, I have the next question for you, very similar. What are the unique challenges that you face in your industry? Well, specifically, your public sector, healthcare, speaks so profoundly to all of us because sick kids, we saw those headlines, and we've, the minute a hospital somewhere in our healthcare system, and ransomware is almost always something that captures the media's attention, and once it's on the media's radar screen, it's easy for the rest of us to get there. What are your unique challenges, and how are you tackling them?
We have a lot of challenges, I would say, in healthcare. To begin with, I would say, since most of the healthcare is now towards the point that now they're digitalized, now they're all sitting on silo platforms and silo system, the biggest challenge in healthcare that we see all the time is about the integration of actually bringing that data together. At the same time, we also house a lot of patient data as well, so it's always on our mind frame how we can better protect the environment, run our privacy practice and security practice, and then somehow utilize that data for real human analysis and research and innovation, which has been the biggest challenge for us. We are one of those hospitals who are very nimble in that approach and really looking at the future. We really realize that where the problem lies, and we look at it from a different lens. And it's important for us we start having those conversations and look at doing that. Like people, as John said in the beginning about what people used to think about cloud, hospitals are still looking into getting in there. It's a slow practice for us to get there because we have disjointed system. But one thing very unique about that is because we are in the healthcare itself, for us it's always on the forefront to ensure that it's not only just fighting the perpetrators, but also finding ways that if they're able to get in, that you are able to actually mitigate the impact as soon as possible, which has been a great practice that we have with John and his team, where we have a 24/7 monitoring and logging of our SIEM and all our data, and they keep an eye on it. And it's better for us that we can concentrate on providing real health care and patient care and not getting up and worried about our data that's been sitting. So that's been the biggest challenge, and We are evolving around it, learning more about it, and how we can actually expand our practices and utilize the data properly.
Thanks so much, Cheval. Interesting, because as you said, customer-specific data breaches aren't as much a concern for you, Ash, but in your world, they're very, very significant, and that's the information I, as a patient, and I, as a doctor, don't want to worry about getting out there. Rafi, now that we've heard from Ash and Cheval, this one's over for you. We've talked about their cybersecurity challenges. How do you think Fortinet is positioned to address those challenges and anticipate and prepare for that visionary future?
It's a great question. So I think what we've done to prepare for the future and to solve Ash's problem, your problem, is by building a platform, right? So one of the things that is fascinating today is that the wireless access point doesn't talk to the SCADA system. The firewall doesn't talk to the wireless access point. We've solved that problem. So in case of pipelines, the SCADA systems are secured by Fortinet. The firewall is secured by Fortinet. They all speak to each other. They speak the same language. In healthcare, one of the reasons you've seen us surging in healthcare is that we integrate with all the medical device manufacturing. So now that platform, the universal security across the enterprise, whether it's pipeline, healthcare, operating room, whatever that might be, gives you integrated technology, gives you a nice universal data output, and then you have a fighting chance against your adversary. Because if the pieces don't talk to each other, that's how you get the blind spots, right? Once you have that nice data output, that's when people like Stratagem come along and actually find out what the adversary is trying to do and prevent them from pivoting across from one network to the other. So that platform is the future. That is the future of cyber. The days of having disjointed technologies with disjointed data output, those days are what has caused the vast of recent breaches in the industries that we serve today. So.
Thanks so much, Rafi. You almost paint a picture for me of something very holistic, very anticipatory, and it's keeping that vision going several steps ahead of the threat actor.
That's right, and I think the key is to have that communication, because without that communication, you as an organization, to Ash's point, you can't respond faster than a human, right? So we want to give Ash the ability to have that same posture across all the different technologies that he's required to protect as part of his role.
As Ash said, so he can get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, he wants to go home at 4 or 5 o'clock, right, and let the automation do it. That's where John comes in. That's where the next generation SOC comes in, because you're pumping out terabytes and terabytes of data, and how do you parse through that data to find out where the adversary is? That is a foundational challenge of the future of cyber today.
Thank you so much, Rafi. John, you're up next. You are a managed service provider. How are you addressing the challenges that the customers are facing, and how is working with Stratagem advantageous for them?
That's a very easy question. We are solving a key problem for our customers. One, and the reason we are at Sheridan College is they cannot find the people. There's a huge talent crisis. So working with Stratagem, we're solving the first problem. The second problem we're solving is that, not all the customers are lucky enough to have all Fortinet products from end to end. So most customers will have a blend of products. And what Stratagem does with our security as a service is we bring all those products together. And even though they may not be all Fortinet or all CrowdStrike or all Cisco, we make them work as one. And that is a unique capability that we have brought to the market 5 years ago. And our friends at Gartner now give it a fancy name. They call it a cybersecurity mesh architecture. And Stratagem has been building a cybersecurity mesh architecture for the last 8 years. So what we have done is we've taken the multiple tools that Ash may have in Superior Propane, or the multiple tools that Cheval has at Grand River, and we have brought them all together, we've integrated them all together, and we have created this mesh. And what the mesh does, it allows us to automate actions in real time. When we automate something, we have to be 100% certain that when I block this port on the firewall, that Cheval's healthcare system is not going to come down, or the pipes are going to stop pumping oil. Okay, so the automation is very important, and what drives automation is accuracy. And we can only get accuracy if we have the mesh. And like Rafi talked about all these different bits and pieces communicating and talking the same language, that is what Stratagem is doing. And Stratagem is the only managed security service provider in North America that can provide a security service that is built on this leading innovative cyber mesh architecture.
John, I love that you called out the Gartner mesh, and I'm going to love it for a very personal reason, and Rafi's going to know why, because you know where I'm going.
That's right, that's right.
Because just around the time you, as a visionary, were anticipating that we needed to go in this way, Fortinet had already anticipated it with something we call the fabric.
That's right, and I think that, you know, John being a visionary was definitely ahead of his time, but the industry's finally realized that this is the future. And if you're not going down this road or already down this road, you are at severe risk of being compromised.
That's it, exactly. As it happens, Rafi, the next question is for you. As you see changes in how cyber criminals are breaching customer data, what do you perceive might be the next trend in cybersecurity? And how do customers like Cheval and Ash, how do they need to prepare?
That's a loaded question, but a great question. So we think the future of cybersecurity builds upon the cybersecurity mesh and will involve automation and data mining. Because one of the things that the mesh will create is loads of data. And in that data, in that trough of data, will be your adversary. And finding that adversary will be the challenge, and that's where Stratagem, et cetera, comes in. So to prepare today is we start building a framework to create the mesh and use AI generative tools to mine that mesh to find out where the adversary is lying. And
They're going to get smarter, aren't they?
They're getting smarter, they're getting more nefarious. The tools are generating more data. It's becoming impossible for the human being to mine that data, for the human being to respond to that data. Only tools will be able to mine that data. So now is the time to prepare to, you know, in terms of where are you going to have that data, where is that data going to reside, how are you going to mine it, and how are you going to respond to the adversary via that information that you receive, right?
Thank you so much, Rafi. So much to think about. And over to Ash, because based on the challenges you currently face, and there's more to come, how do you prioritize all the things we've just talked about in cyber? There's a lot. How are you going to prioritize which cyber investments you want to make and which initiatives are going to take place in your organization?
Sure, that's a great question. You know, I think I'd start with first principles. It's always, where's the damage? What do you need to repair? Some of that is going to be apparent, and there's some logical investments to make. Once you get through that easy lifting, I think it is absolutely critical you have partners like these gentlemen on the stage, because, you know, as my technology industry colleague has pointed out, we are concerned about this stuff. We're deeply interested in it. We know enough to be dangerous. We don't do it 24/7. And really, we need partners and tool sets that support that 24/7. So, you know, when it comes to how we prioritize within the cyber funnel itself, we'll do that in concert with our key providers, right? So John will help us drive that investment agenda. And as it's been pointed out, you know, if I was greenfielding something, I'd call up this guy right here and say, let's implement the fabric, right? It's a no-brainer, it's mesh out of the box, all of that. Once you're working somewhere established, you're gonna have contracts, you're gonna have spend that's already been allocated, you're going to have, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's a bit like renovating a house versus building a house from scratch. And usually when you're renovating, you're not destroying the whole house. And so that's where you need a great contractor, a great industry expert to say, hey, you know what, I know you don't want to do it, Ash, but you really got to redo this section of the plumbing. Because if you don't, these 3 other sexy strategic initiatives you have are going to have a massive leak. And so I'd say, having the right partners at the table, understanding your own business, mesh the 2 of those together, no pun intended, and that'll help you prioritize how you sequence. That's how we do it.
Thanks so much. So I'm just going to recap for a second. Trust is key. You've got to really trust and know that your contractor and whoever you're working with, partners like John, Fortinet, they understand what you want to do next, and they really are ready to help you make those decisions with confidence. Because you got to sleep at night after you make the decision too, right?
Absolutely.
Cheval, over to you. I'd like to ask the same question. Based on the challenges that you currently face, and more to come, how do you prioritize cybersecurity investments and the initiatives in your organization?
So I'll probably answer that on a two-step approach here, what we did and what was more valuable for us. The first and the foremost thing is, in an organization, you can have best of the best tools. If you're able to actually convince your senior leadership and board members, you can probably have the best investment as well. But in the cybersecurity world, the only weak link that's beyond the control is your own users. Your own users are the one, if you're not educating them, providing them the enough information, that they can become your biggest threat, as they know and they are part of your environment. So with Stratagem, and especially with John, we started looking at doing tabletop exercises and really challenging our policies, challenging our platform and our area in a way that we can ensure that our users are educated and brought up to the speed, that they don't become the weak link in the chain. And that actually went a long way for us to actually understand the problem could be inside rather than looking it outside and helping it that way. The other piece is also around, it makes it pretty simpler for your senior leadership and board members if you're able to provide the information where the investment has been made and how it actually benchmarks against the industry. And that was an exercise for us. Like, it's hard when you're looking at taxpayer dollars. Everyone would like to know where they've been spent and how they've been utilized. So it was important for us to actually showcase that not only we are actually investing in the right place, but we are also benchmarking against the right individual, which actually makes our environment more secure on a daily basis.
Thank you so much. You know, one of the things that we're watching, I'm sure you are as well, are changes in legislation or even changes in sort of corporate governance where CEO compensation could be linked to a cybersecurity breach. So prioritizing and investing wisely and trusting the partner you're with is definitely going to be a very important C-suite initiative. John, with all the business challenges and budget crunches, how is working with an MSSP like Stratagem a good business option? And can you elaborate on security as a service?
I think the most important thing that I tell all my customers when I'm doing a pitch on why you should do business with Stratagem, I say we can reduce your cost by 50% and increase your efficiency by 50%. And why is that? We reduce the cost because we have a shared infrastructure. So security as a service is shared among our 200 customers. So you're not going out and buying the most expensive tool for yourself alone. I think of it as the Uberization of cybersecurity. Okay, so we're all we get the tool and we're sharing the tools. If we can share the tools, if we can use the tools effectively, if we can implement automation, then we can continue to keep Ash and Cheval's costs down and keep reducing the costs over time. And that's almost counterintuitive. You know, your business, I'm an MSSP, if you spend $1 with me this year, next year I want you to spend $3, and the year after that I want you to spend $5. But we are looking at how can we help our customers bend the cost curve. Cybersecurity is the costs have been going up for the last 10 years at exponential rates. And Stratagem, with our security as a service, with our innovation, with our automation, is we are first stabilizing the cost. So when we sign a contract with a customer, we're giving them the same cost over 5 years. Nobody in this industry can do that. But we can do it because we're innovating. We're constantly innovating. We're constantly looking at how we can automate, how we can do things in a more efficient and effective manner. And that is why working with an MSSP like Stratagem and our security service model has been so successful. And customers don't leave us. The other problem you have with MSSPs is that you have a lot of customers, saying, I've been with this MSSP for 3 years now. They can't do what they said they're going to do. We're going to move. Stratagem has been in the business for 8 years, and we have very few customers who leave us. And the reason they don't leave us is because we're constantly innovating. And that is why we're so happy working with Sheridan College and the research that they're doing and the innovation that they're doing, because that's the only way we're going to keep the cost down. Otherwise, we can't keep the cost down. So I believe we're going to make you more secure, and we're going to charge you less money.
You know, I'd like that in a few other areas in my life, not just cyber. I think that, you know, if you could do that in a few others, I'd be thrilled. We talk at Fortinet a lot about the fact that innovation costs money. We're, you know, patents, the innovation that it takes to keep the business that Cheval is in charge of in the public sector, that, Ash and Cheval are in charge of. So my next question for John is, when you built Strategem Cyber Intelligence Center, it was long before we were in a state of advanced persistence threats that we see today. So what led you to want to build a CIC then? What did you see, and how has it changed?
I don't know. I think that's a trick question. I'd like to think of myself some great visionary. You have some great. I think it's just, I've been in the business such a long time, so I'm just an old guy, basically. I've been in the business a long time, and I've seen the problems that customers face. Okay, whether you're a large customer, you're a small customer, you're financial services or healthcare or retail, and the challenges that they're having with cybersecurity. And cybersecurity today is not what it's going to be 6 months from now, and it's not the same as it was 6 months ago. So it's how do you be agile? How are you agile? And so what we did when we built the Cyber Intelligence Center and built the mesh was, the key thing was, how do we be agile? So if the hackers are coming down this path today, we're there to defend ourselves, and tomorrow if they're coming down this path, we're there to defend ourselves, and we're able to be agile. And that is what we were thinking about. I remember Carl and myself, spending many hours trying to debate on, what is the best path and how should we build the company, how should we build the mesh. And it was always about, we have to be agile. We have to be able to turn on a dime, and that's why we went to the cloud. And again, I come back to when we started Strategem in 2015, and I remember going to our first customer and I said, we put a security information event management solution in the cloud, and we want to sell it to you as a service. The guy looked at me and said, you're crazy. Like literally, he said to me, he said, John, we love you, but we're not going to buy the service from you because the cloud is insecure, and now you're taking my security software and putting it in the cloud. So it's a double whammy. But the cloud was the key to our ability to keep the cost down. If we didn't go with the cloud, I would not be able to sit down here today to you and boast about how we can reduce your cost. It would just not happen. The cloud was key. And we made that key decision in 2015, and we launched. And I know in 2016, people are laughing at me and saying, hey, you know what, this business is probably going to flop in a few years, and John's going to go bankrupt. But we persevered because the cloud was the key. The cloud, the mobility, the artificial intelligence that people talk about, everybody talks about now, we were thinking about that 8 years ago. And we want to be agile, and we think that is what has made us successful.
I love that. And at the beginning, we talked about a definition of a visionary, someone who can see the future before anyone else is, and they're often mocked for it. They're often questioned, like, no, that can't be true. But you were there 8 years before anybody else was. And a visionary is someone who can plan for the future. We can all sort of some days see it, but planning for it is something else entirely. And having the courage of your conviction to stick with it, that's an important trait as well as for anyone who wants a strong cyber posture. Rafi, with everybody working from home, and we know that's, as John said earlier, right, we're seeing more of it, and we're seeing hybrid.
That's right.
Managing hybrid workforces is a big challenge for enterprises. So what's the best way to ensure corporate data isn't compromised?
Oh, that's a great and loaded question. So the reality is, I think we've beaten the mesh to death. We know that you need the mesh. Now the question is, how are you going to monitor what these people are doing? So one of the things, to John's point, that DX created, DX actually made cyber much more difficult, because at least the threat, the adversary, were contained behind the walled garden, okay, or the office as we called it. Now that you potentially have thousands of people away from the office, on home networks, working from Starbucks, working from wherever, our job is exponentially more complicated. So the ability to mine that data, to view that data, to action that data in real time, that is going to be a significant headache for all cyber practitioners going forward. Right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Rafi, you've reminded me of something else that's really key for hybrid workers and folks in the office are working exclusively at home. How important is it for employees to be well trained and cognizant of the choice they make in that nanosecond when they click a link?
Yeah, another loaded question, because I think training is one great aspect. We need to teach them, just like we do internally, or they do it, or Ash does internally, or Cheval does. Don't click on that link. But if you look at some of the threats that have been around, like Pegasus attacks on iPhones, there's no human intervention required, right? So the question becomes now, how do we determine what our adversary has done when we now have 5,000 offices where before COVID we had 12? And this is the future of take that mesh, take all the data that comes out of that mesh, and make sense of it. And that is the fundamental, potentially, storm that we face, right?
Oh, for sure. Thank you, Rafi. Cheval, you've been working with a hybrid workforce since COVID. How have you dealt with this issue?
Well, one thing that COVID has taught us is everything is changing and nothing is permanent anymore. And what we have seen mostly around is people working from home. It's also physicians and care providers and doctors as well. So for us, it becomes quite challenging that your patient could also be working from home, or they're actually interacting with their doctor from home. So it's about securing those conversations end-to-end on a privacy and security platform, which becomes extremely challenging. We have looked at a variety of things, a variety of ways of access securing. We are following the Zero Trust platform, the Zero Trust practice, but still it's been a huge challenge where a PACS administrator or a doctor could be sitting outside Canada pulling an image which has to be encrypted all the way through VPN or some shape or form, and they're able to provide quality care from wherever they are. We've been empowering our staff wherever it is possible, even for our patients as well, to look at solutions where you can actually avoid them from coming in, if it's not really necessary for them to come. And that's one thing that's been common throughout the whole COVID practice, that we have seen this, that a lot of people are still not coming back. It's very interesting, but it's the way things are. We were the first hospital to look at the virtual ED as an example, and also a hospital which was actually doing consultation through video visit even before COVID. So it's been revolutionary in that regards, but it's been still a huge challenge because you don't know in what shape or form in that transaction where you're interacting with a patient and a doctor together, you're being the conduit, that the conduit may get compromised somewhere. So it's something that we work through on a regular basis. We've been working with both with Fortinet and also with John in looking at ways that we can monitor those things, that every transaction, every conversation that's happening, that's secured and encrypted on end to end.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for the insight, Cheval. Ash, as you experience working with a hybrid workforce, has it been different from Cheval's?
I think fairly similar in terms of, we both have assets that need to be protected, and as we communicate with folks outside of our perimeter, we need that to happen in a strong way. I'd say much like his business, we have two different workforces. So we have about 500 to 800 people that sit in offices, and then we have about 5,000 people that are out in the field. So for 90% of our company, daily operations were the same in COVID, apart from the fact that they had to wear masks and PPE and other protocols that we put in place along with public policy. So I would say for us, we've always had a distributed workforce. We've always needed to protect kind of that last mile of the transaction, whether it's a financial transaction occurring at customer premise, or we're housing PID, or it's SCADA gear out there, in the wild that's triggering a pump to do something. So I'd say we've experienced hybrid for a while. The office worker being hybrid was certainly new to us. And I would say, exactly like Cheval has pointed out, zero trust architecture, tools that are super, super simple, and making some hard decisions on certain classes of work that we feel we need to do in a protected physical perimeter, and certain classes of work where the workload, to use a tech example, the workloads can easily move to a distributed human model.
That's so helpful for all of us. I love the contrast between how hybrid is really not as different for you, but yet variances are so important to consider as you plan things for a safe future. So as we wrap up this portion of our fireside chat, we're still going to have time for Q&A. But if there's one thing that you would say to everyone in this room, please don't leave here today without this important message, this insight. I'd like you to go around and share that with us. Cheval, we'll start with you.
I would say the one thing that I'm going to go around would be around making sure that even if you put the best of the systems or the best of the processes in place, you're constantly going back and evaluating your cybersecurity practice. And also around ensuring that your users are educated, because as I said, they're the biggest weak link that you can't control. And having those policies and doing tabletops and really looking at it from a holistic point of view, where do you stand and how you can improve. It's not always about just implementing a technology or implementing a process. There could be synergies that exist right now that you could look at in your environment. It could be as simple as actually providing your API integration for your cloud provider to your MSSP, but it could be anything out there, which I would always ask people to think about from that lens, that the glass is always half full, and there are ways to look at it, especially when it comes to cybersecurity.
Thanks, Shival. Ash?
Yeah, thanks for the question. You know, I would say the first thing I would leave particularly our less tenured, younger, more energetic folks in the room with is, you know, be agile, right? Whatever you're going to learn today is obsolete, not unnecessary, but will alter and change over time at a very, very rapid pace, right? So if you look at the threat spectrum that we're all solving for, I mean, generative AI was not a topic for most folks 6 months ago. You either had to be in a lab or at Google or perhaps in a college where you were learning about this stuff. I mean, that's where I first learned about quantum computing way back in the day. But for most of us normal folks out there, right, it's new. And so that spectrum is going to change, and your ability to adapt to that spectrum, understanding that you're coming from an extremely strong program and extremely strong foundation is going to be absolutely key. And I think, like Shival mentioned, you know, the other thought I'll leave you with is you're always going to be selling. So whether you're a cybersecurity professional or an IT leader or working on something, you're going to be asking somebody to change a business process. You're going to be asking a board or your colleagues for funding to do something. You're going to be asking employees to do things a little bit differently than they did in the past. And so whatever the idea is you have, be passionate about it. And remember, you're going to have to drag a very, very diverse group of people through that process in order to make it all hum and work.
Thank you, Ash. Continuous learning, and folks are nervous. There you go. Rafi?
You're asking all the hard questions today, Lynn. But I would say to, you know, the tools don't matter anymore. The automation and the data is what matters, right? Those are where the business outcomes lie. That's how we get ahead in the community. The future is in the CIC. The future is in generative AI. Don't get bogged down in the latest trend, in the latest fancy device. The tools don't matter. The data is what matters.
Thank you so much. John, the final word, please.
Great, I'm the last, so great suggestions from all the panelists here. My suggestion to everybody is be not afraid. Don't let the hackers win. Don't let the threat of cybersecurity prevent you from innovating, prevent you from doing something really great. You know, ChatGPT is a great example. You know, go out, check out these tools, do innovative things, and you know, we'll take care of the hackers for you, okay? So don't let the hackers get the better of you. Don't not do a project or not do something because you're afraid you're going to get hacked, okay? Just make sure you follow good basic hygiene, cybersecurity hygiene principles, and continue living and innovating and enjoying life.
I love it. We're not going to let them win. We will not. Thank you so much, John. Folks, I believe we have some time for Q&A. What an incredible panel. Would you please take a moment with me? I know we're circulating with some microphones, so if anyone has a question, please indicate it so that we can find you, and we'll get the panel to answer that for you. Oh, we've got some over here.
Hello there.
Is it on?
Yeah, you're on.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, perfect. Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for this. I got such superhero vibes from you. And I'm Meenakshi. I represent Trias College. I handle their career placements for the students. Now, my question would be either to Shival or Ash, up to you. Now, I do understand that you said that one of the weakest links to watch out for would be your own users in your organization, right? And while you are implementing the zero trust practice or the architecture, my question would be, how do you ensure that your third-party supplier ecosystems are secure?
Great question. I can go first, Ash, if you would like. It's important to understand the built-in APIs that are available even with your third-party environments or even the cloud providers or a SaaS solution. And it's important to bring that very practice together to your security provider, which is your managed security provider. If they're able to have more visibility on your environment, they're better off actually monitoring it for you.
Yeah, I think Shival's bang on, and I think old-fashioned secondary controls, though those two are often now being dissipated with AI and tool sets, right? But a lesson I had taught to me very young in my career. I remember I was sitting down with the CEO once, and I said, "Hey, what are the parameters by which you hire somebody?" Understanding that there's going to be very diverse roles, and he always said to me, "Hire on attitude, eliminate on integrity." Right? So I think as you involve people in things, always be aware of integrity. 99.999% of the world are high integrity folks, right? So if you get 1% that let's say gets through to your organization, you then got to look at the control environment. And I think Shival pointed this out as well as the other folks on the panel. That's when it comes to things like zero trust and segmentation. So how is it that we have the data we need to be super effective at our roles, but not the data that we don't require that's important to the organization or a patient/customer? So I think things like segmentation and an overall axiom of zero trust are super, super important in that area. I think also, traditional tools such as policy frameworks. So when we're onboarding a new business partner, they now get a fairly substantial questionnaire from us, where we'll ask about their cyber defenses. We want to understand, are they gravitating towards a mesh architecture, right? Are they training their employees on cyber defenses, et cetera? So I'd say, like most things in this world, unfortunately, it's a multi-pronged assault from, everything from policy framework to strong partnership to visibility on tool sets. And then, the old-fashioned, hey, if you get a request from the CEO saying, please pay this $1 million invoice, maybe make a phone call before you do it.
Thank you so much, Shival and Ash. That was a great question. Do we have any others? Yes, excellent.
Hello, everyone. My name is Glaron Pinto, and I am a second-year cybersecurity student at Sheridan College from the Trafalgar campus. Thank you so much for sharing the knowledge about cyber mesh architecture. My question is, how much can we trust generative AI in cybersecurity, and is it going to replace the workforce?
Sure. I'll take that one on. I'll get another great hard question, but I think we have no choice but to work with it, because I think that we have the volume of data is overwhelming the ability of human beings to look into where the adversaries are. So we have no choice but to mold the generative AI into what we want it to be, because otherwise we simply would throw our hands up to the adversary. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship. We have to use it, and we're just going to have to massage it to do what we want to do. But we have no alternative at this point in our history but to work with it.
Thank you, Rafi. I think we have a couple. We're time okay, Nisreen, for a couple more questions? Great.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm a cybersecurity specialist. So I work with one of the organizations in Canada here. One question that has always bothered me, especially on the job, because you see these things every day, and it has to do with the frameworks. We talk a lot about the NIST framework. We talk about the ISO 27001 frameworks. Sometimes the PCI DSS. It sometimes gets too burdening because they're just everywhere. And if you look at the best framework to introduce into the basic frameworks to introduce into any organization, it just gets all over the place. And then you get so confused on which is the best framework, to introduce. Now we have AI. What will be the best framework in terms of what we have out here now? AI, ChatGPT is everywhere. What will be the best framework to introduce into the organization? Thank you.
That looks like an open question. John, do you want to take
I'll take that question because I get that question asked every time I'm with customers, because they're always looking at, if you've been around the block as long as I have, then it used to be 27001 was the framework everybody used, and that was the gold standard. And then in 2014, the U.S. government, President Obama, issued an executive order and enforcing the NIST cybersecurity framework. And once the U.S. government imposed a framework on all the U.S. defense contractors, that became the de facto standard for as a framework for everybody to follow. The issue is not about frameworks. The issue is about basic hygiene. If you follow basic cybersecurity principles and basic hygiene, then whether you have to follow ISO 27001 or whether you have to follow the NIST cybersecurity framework, or whether in Canada we have PAPIDA, it's all the same. They all want you to do the right thing, which is patch your systems, which is not very sexy, but the basic thing. The basic thing, customers' systems are not patched. So you have vulnerabilities that have been discovered in 2015 and 2010 and 2011, and then suddenly you hear in 2023 some hacker has exploited the vulnerability that existed for forever. And then they say, oh, we got to go out and buy some new tools. No, you've got to do the basic fundamentals of cybersecurity. If you follow the basic fundamentals of cybersecurity, then no matter what framework comes out, if you know, just this month, September 1st, the SEC has come out with new reporting requirements for all listed companies. Well, if you read those reporting requirements, it's the basic fundamentals all over again. They just give it, what they're doing is they're trying to impose the basic fundamentals on enterprises, because nobody wants to do the basic stuff. We all want to go out and buy some fancy new tool. So it's, you got to change the oil in your car. You can go and buy nice new seats and put in a fancy, stereo system in your car. But if you don't change the oil frequently enough, that car is not going to go very far. And I think it's an apt analogy for cybersecurity. Follow the basics. Do the basic things every day. Not once a month on Patch Tuesday, but every time you see a vulnerability, patch it. And then you don't have to worry about any framework. No matter what framework you're going to be judged by, you'll be in great shape.
Thank you, John. Do we have time for one more? One more. This is it, the final question to the panel.
Hi, I'm also a graduate of the program at Sheridan, Bachelor's in Information Security. Right now I work as a cybersecurity analyst in Mississauga. So one of the challenges that my team or we are facing is we have third-party applications and which we don't have any control of. And when we reach out to them, they just ignore our request. So I want to know what's your input on how to respond to those kind of stuff.
Sure. When you say third-party application, can you give me an example of one, or?
For example, I can say Yadi.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I think that is a business process challenge. Ash, I believe you covered that early on. To Ash's point, you need to interrogate the third-party vendors, and if they don't respond, then perhaps you need to look at a new third-party vendor. I mean, unless you have the ability to go in there and look for yourself, which you might, in most cases, to Ash's point, you need to ask them about their posture, ask them about their resilience, ask them about their monitoring, and they need to put that in writing to you, right?
Yeah, what they are saying is the legal reasons, and they don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I get it. But in that case, you might want to look elsewhere, because I know that we at Fortinet get asked that question dozens of times per day, and I personally respond to those questions on a daily basis through our legal, obviously, and we're pretty open about our CIC and our monitoring and all those pieces. So I think, you know, if they're not open and, you know, if they're not answering the kind of questions that an ASH would send, that's probably a marker that they're not doing what they need to do.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a bang on response. I'll give you a trick from my tool bag, if you will, right? So, anytime you're talking to a business partner or vendor, you know, if you're calling the guy in the IT department or the administrative function, you're not going to get anything. Talk to the sales guy, because that's the guy who's on commission, whose revenue's at risk. And so you pick up the phone and you say, hey, currently spend about this much with you, not getting what I need. I just need you to be aware that I'm going to make my organization aware of that. You might get a slightly different response.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Will you please join me in one more show of appreciation for our great panel?
Been a pleasure, man. Yeah, take care. Really great to meet you. Yeah.
That was very nice. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lynn. That was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
That was fun, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What a great conversation. I learned so much. I wanted that to go on forever. Great conversation. Thank you. Thanks so much, Catherine. Can you manage? Because I can come back with you. Got it. You okay? Thank you.
Can we get another round of applause for that phenomenal, heavy-hitting insight? Louder, louder, louder. And now we turn to the live hack that we're going to be demonstrating for you guys today, the art of digital defense. Using Strategem Security as a Service platform and Fortinet's Security Fabric, our team has been hard at work to recreate what a live hack actually looks like. I will now hand it off to our narrator, Talal Iqbal, who's also the director of the Cyber Intelligence Center here at Strategem, to work the theater for the group today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our live cyber attack and defense demo. In this session, you'll see a face-off between the cyber villains and our heroes as they battle to secure the organization from a cyber attack. My name is Talha Iqbal. I'm the director of the Cyber Intelligence Center at Strategem. I'll be narrating and walking you through this live demonstration on how attacks can breach an organization and why leveraging automation can help reduce the time to detect, contain, and mitigate a threat. On my left, your right, we have Ted, Rahul, and Fatima representing a fictitious organization called Company X. They have state-of-the-art defenses. Stand up, guys, stand up. They have state-of-the-art defenses and a mature team of IT professionals. Ted will be playing the manager of IT security, while Rahul and Fatima are playing the role of network and server administrator. On my right, your left, we have the Black Hat Zone, where we have the dynamic duo Trevor and Angelina playing a mysterious They're playing a mysterious hacker group named Shadow Syndicate. We also have Stratagem in the white hat zone. Michelangelo, who's our trained IT security analyst. Fun fact, Michelangelo is also a Sheridan alumni. He's working in the Cyber Intelligence Center and providing 24/7 monitoring, analysis, and threat defense services to Company X. So we have the good, the bad, and we're going to talk about the ugly side of cybersecurity. So without further ado, let's dive into the belly of the beast, to the black hat zone. Over the last month, Angelina has been running a mass phishing campaign. She's been using sophisticated tactics and crafted a very realistic phishing email to steal credentials. A user at Company X falls victim to the social engineering attack, which allows the Shadow Syndicate to use the stolen credentials and log into a VPN at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. As I start my timer, I want to divert your attention to the black hat zone. Trevor will now use those stolen credentials and log into the VPN. Angelina shares the stolen credentials with Trevor, who's now trying to access the VPN portal. He's using the Tor browser to spoof his IP address, so it's originating from outside of North America. Trevor has the username and the password for a stolen credential, and will be using that to log into the VPN portal. As you can see, Trevor has logged into the VPN portal. Lucky for Trevor, the user has a bookmark which leads to a server, so Trevor can now use those credentials to gain access to that server, which is connected to the internal network. Trevor has launched a web-based remote desktop into that server, and pretty soon he will have access to an internal device. Now that Trevor is able to log in successfully, he has gained an initial entry point into the network. Using this system, he will now run different scans in order to see what other resources and systems can be exploited. He will then attempt to laterally move within the network. Trevor is making note of the operating system, the IP address, and the details pertaining to this asset, so he can run some exploiting tools in order to further develop his footprint and laterally move within the organization. The intention behind this is to leave a payload behind, which can then be used to deploy a ransomware in this organization. Now, as Trevor runs some scans, he has the ability to move from one system to the other. He can run intrusion tools, but he is unaware that you are being tracked and monitored by the defenses and the security controls in place. While they celebrate, well, I don't see them celebrating yet. While they celebrate, there we go. While they celebrate the initial breach, they're excited to deploy their ransomware, but on the other side, someone is watching. I now direct your attention to the white hat zone, where Michelangelo, as part of Stratagem's 24/7, 365 Cyber Intelligence Center, is working the graveyard shift. He's looking at the alerts that are being triggered by different security tools and would work towards investigating and acknowledging and triaging those incidents. Just a reminder, folks, this is a real-time scenario. So as Trevor and his team is attempting to evade the defenses and penetrate into the system, Michelangelo would be intercepting the traffic and looking at the alerts and the alarms that are being triggered. So what you see on the screen behind me is the 40SIM platform, which is actively collecting all the log data, and Michelangelo is investigating those events and trying to understand the indicators of compromise and what risk it poses to the organization. Michelangelo proceeds to generate an incident ticket based on the alarm that had triggered. He will now extract the IP address, username, hostname, and other indicators of compromise, which will then be used to escalate to the customer and initiate the incident response plan. At this point, Michelangelo is extracting all the relevant details. So he got the raw event log from the SIM tool, and from that raw event log, he will look at the parsed details, identifying all the relevant information. This is not something new to Michelangelo. He's been working in the Cyber Intelligence Center for the last 2 years, so he is very used to seeing these types of events. And this is something that we see in our Cyber Intelligence Center on a regular basis because it's the most common indicator of compromise, and phishing being the #1 attack vector. So you can see here Michelangelo has extracted the firewall event logs. Looking at the log data, he's able to see that the login was successful, and he's able to identify the IP address from where the user, or the attacker in this case, made the initial connection. In our black hat zone, I see that the hackers are actively working and extracting all the relevant information. So this is a live threat for the organization, and this type of scenario compromises the integrity and the confidentiality of the system in question here. So here you can see that the source country is Netherlands, and the IP in question may be suspicious. So Michelangelo is going to use the threat intelligence platform to look up the IP reputation. So in this case, we are using Recorded Future, a leading threat intelligence platform, and we see that there is a high risk score for this IP address. So this IP address has been previously used in brute force attack and scan-like activity, hence it's suspicious in nature. Now what Michelangelo is doing in the CIC is he's adding the relevant notes and building a timeline on the events that he observed so that he can escalate that to the customer and they can take an action to mitigate and remediate this threat. What Michelangelo will be concluding is that based on the log data, there is an active threat which requires an immediate response. As per the defined escalation path, an incident ticket is generated, the analyst does the initial triage, gathers all the relevant information, adds the comments and the investigation steps into the ticket, and will then send a notification and an escalation to the customer to take further action. He will also be including his findings and will document the recommended action for the customer to undertake. As the suspense continues to build, I see that the attackers are trying to log into a different server, so it may look like they have the ability to laterally move within the organization. Now, time is of the critical essence here. We need the customer to block this intrusion before it's too late. We want to eliminate the risk. We want to reduce the impact to the organization. So as Michelangelo concludes his investigation, he will then refer to the incident management plan, find out who's on call so that he can reach out to the appropriate contact and get this action immediately. So this is exactly how an analyst would behave or would react to an incident of this nature within our Cyber Intelligence Center. So they'll make sure that all the information they have added in the ticket has been validated. They're able to identify the suspicious IP. They're able to list down the source user. They're able to list down the host that is impacted so that they can direct and recommend the appropriate course of action to the cyber security team at the customer's environment. Now there's a clear indicator that this specific user was not protected with MFA. If the user was protected with MFA, it would make it difficult for the attackers to easily gain access to the VPN. So they were able to extract the credentials through a simple phishing activity or phishing campaign and use those credentials to laterally move and connect to the VPN. Michelangelo now changes the state of the incident ticket to active customer. This means that a notification will be sent to the customer. At this point, an email notification has been sent to the appropriate contact. But keep in mind that it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, hence we need to make a phone call since this is a critical incident. So luckily for us, Michelangelo remembers the phone number by heart, otherwise he would be referring to the on-call list.
Good morning, Ted speaking.
Hi there, Ted. This is Michelangelo from the Strategy CIT team. How are you doing?
Good. What are you calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning for?
Yeah, I just escalated an incident over to you. INC 3608960.
Wait. You gotta write those down. Hold on, that's too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
INC 3608960. It's in relation to successful VPN logon and lateral movement detected.
Okay. Well, I haven't checked my email yet, but I would have to contact our firewall administrator, and Fatima, our network lead, to deal with the incident and the emergency. I will have them update the ticket accordingly, and then once they're complete, you can then action the next steps. Is that fair?
Yes, please, if you can go ahead and do that. All the information is in the ticket for you, so if you can please action that and let me know when that's been taken care of. Furthermore, we'll be looking into other indicators of compromise and let you know if we see anything else appear.
Fantastic. Look forward to more updates as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to recap, Company X needs to block this intrusion, but it's in the middle of the night and they have to wake up a firewall administrator. Michelangelo has passed the incident response responsibilities, represented by that volleyball there. So now the ball's in their court and they need to action it to contain and prevent this threat from causing further damage. So at this point, Ted would need to wake up his firewall administrator and server administrator so they're able to take the relevant action.
Good morning, Rahul. It's Ted. Sorry to bother you at this time of the day.
Hey, Ted. What's up? How are you?
We received an incident response ticket from the White Hat team at Stratagem. Within the ticket, there's an identified threat. They're asking to make some changes on the firewall, and it's identified that we need to block the identified IP address that's listed in the ticket, isolate the port, and disable the VPN user. Can you please take that task on and update the ticket accordingly? Please note, Fatima is also going to be making some changes on the network side, so she'll be looking forward to your notes as well. Once completed, we can let the Stratagem team move this to next steps, okay?
For sure, Ted. I'll take a look into it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as Rahul will log into his computer, log into the VPN, log into the firewall, look at the incident details, Ted simultaneously reaches out to Fatima, requesting that she isolates and contain the device in question. So that will be the compromised server.
Good morning, Fatima. How are you this morning? Sorry to trouble you.
Morning, Ted. Everything okay?
Not really. We received an incident response ticket from the White Hat team at Stratagem. Within the ticket, there's an identified threat. They're asking us to make some changes in the network. It's asking us to identify and isolate the device and then kill all sessions on the network immediately. Once you're done, please update the ticket accordingly. Somebody's at my front door. Rahul's going to be updating the ticket as well, and then we can move this to next steps with the team at Stratagem. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
So as you can see on the screen on my left, your right, Rahul is logging into the ServiceNow ticketing system. This is the communication portal Stratagem uses. And Ted has now transferred the incident response responsibilities to Rahul and Fatma. Shared responsibilities between the two of them, since they are to action and contain this threat. Rahul logs into the ticketing system, and he's going to look at the notes and the recommendation provided by Michelangelo, which is to block the IP on the firewall, disable the VPN user, and Fatma to isolate and contain the host using 40 EDR platform. At the same time, kill all active sessions for that user on Azure Active Directory. Rahul is logging into the Fortinet firewall, and he would add a firewall blocking policy for the offending IP. keep in mind, folks, that Rahul would not have been as productive if it was 2 a.m. at night and he would have just been woken up. So as you can see, Rahul is adding an object to the firewall policy for the offending IP address so that we can block that connection. So as Rahul pushes the changes, you will notice that Trevor and his VPN session will be terminated. We're already seeing some errors on Trevor's end, so it looks like his connection to the server was terminated, and once the VPN user account will be disabled, he would not be able to log into the VPN portal anymore. Rahul is now disabling the user account. So at this point, I see that Trevor is not looking happy. He might try to attempt to log in again. And he's unable to log in. Great. Now, there's still a lot more to be done. I'm gonna divert your attention back to the customer zone, which is on my left-hand side, your right. So if you look at the screen there, Fatima has logged into Office 365 Administrative Center, and she is now killing or terminating all the active sessions for that user. At the same time, she will log into 40EDR platform and contain the server that was the initial point of entry for the attackers. All right, it looks like the host has been isolated and contained. The IP has been blocked on the firewall. Rahul would be updating his notes in the incident ticket, which will then give Michelangelo some updates that this incident can be reduced from a critical incident to a medium or a low severity incident. The ticket will still remain open because we still need to understand the root cause and prevent this incident from recurring. But it's no longer a critical incident for the organization. Let's do a quick time check. It's almost 17 minutes. That's how long it took for the incident to be detected and responded to. Keep in mind, this is a controlled environment. Although we try to do a live session for you, in a real world, this would take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours before the action has been taken, right? Rahul is already awake, and very productive, so is Fatima, and they were able to respond right away. Typically, it takes us a couple of calls in order to wake the right people up, get them to log into their systems, and then take the action on our behalf. So like I said, time is of critical essence, and the longer we leave the threat actors in our environment, the more damage they can do to the network, the more data they can compromise, and that's the risk that the organization has to bear. Now, with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Javed, our CTO at Stratagem, and to our friends at Fortinet. John will come in and introduce the FortiSOAR platform before we rerun this scenario and show you how automation and leveraging integration can help reduce the mean time to detect, contain, and remediate this issue.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm John Q from Fortinet, a BDE, Business Development Engineer, basically a security solution advisor. Very happy today, and look at that. Amazing professional react to incident really quickly. Can we give a round of applause? Thank you. So at the same time, let's take a moment to reflect on what we just witnessed. What happened to company X could have happened to anyone. Would you agree? Canadian Center of Cybersecurity reported in recent year, Canadian mid-sized to large organization has been compromised, have been attacked increasingly. So this is caused maybe just the inconvenience for some other company, maybe some financial loss. But listen to this one. Sick Kids Hospital get ransomware attacked last year and caused a code gray emergency. It's a matter of life or death. So, as John said earlier, no one is perfect. Cyber attack is no longer the question of if, but when. So what if this happens to your organization at the middle of the night? Do you have the right team or a trusted partner like a Strategy can call to support? Do you have the right tools and a tested procedure to take up this challenge? The big question is, are you ready? So as you see, an incident like this one you just witnessed involves so many people, right? Customer, your staff, and your partners. And the processes, there's a documented procedure, established procedure that Strategem take to follow your organization and to respond to it. And also you need the right technology. So this one, do you have this right to it and get this done? And many people, and even for experienced people like a Strategem professional, it will take average 30 minutes. Right? 30 minutes, they're even better, less than 30 minutes to react to it. And this one need to detect and also can contain, eradicate, and remediate. So in a manual and traditional way. Would you agree? Because they follow the playbooks, procedures, step by step, and to get it done. So we need a better way that can reduce this time, response time. And this response time reduced, we can minimize the business impact to you. So this is exactly what we've given to you, Fortinet Security Fabric and the FortiSOAR. And that can help you. So FortiSOAR, S-O-A-R, what it stands for? Security Operation, Automated Response. That enables the organization centralize, standardize, and automate IT, OT, security operation, and the critical enterprise business functions with a broad fabric integration with your technical environment. And will gain better visibility and the situational wellness on security, as well as your security operation performance in real time. Within the platform, we have rich use case functions, many pre-built workflows that can be easily customized to your needs or your internal processes. So therefore, we can create automated playbooks with machine learning and AI to reduce the manual and repetitive tasks. So as Ash said earlier, machine can take care of the defined work at night, so you can sleep tight, right? And FortiSOAR platform is exactly that platform and that machine. FortiSOAR is also a security operation hub that connects to everything and automate anything. So helping protect your organization from attack and recover from attack rapidly if it ever happens. So Fortinet Security Fabric and FortiSOAR solution, it will bring SOAR. So what you get from it, if you will get a safer environment and you can sleep better. That's for S. With a menu, repetitive work has been optimized for you. That's O. And with leveraging the automation and the AI, that's A. And business becomes more resilient. And the last but not least, you feel relaxed. People is very important in the business. And you can enjoy life and work better. Now, are you ready to see it in action? So let's hand it back, invite.
Thank you, Dalla, for that walkthrough of that incident. And thank you, John, for that introduction to FortiSOAR. Continuing on that, we have taken the FortiSOAR solution and integrated with our security as a service offering, which in turn feeds or draws to our cybersecurity mesh architecture. Okay? So what I'm going to show now is on my screen is playbook that we have customized for this incident. In this playbook, what we are doing is we're taking different technologies that are working in silos and integrating them and taking that data-driven, actions, right? We're taking data-driven actions. We are taking making all the decisions right here. We're taking all the decisions, and based on the decisions, we are taking a remediation action. Okay? So right now the playbook is not active. I'm going to activate this playbook, and we are going to run the same scenario with automation enabled. So with that, Talha.
I'll give you guys a minute to set it up again. All right, thank you, folks. Now we have a better understanding of all the automation, integration, and how leveraging FortiSOAR can allow us to build a security mesh and use automation to eliminate the human element. Now I'll ask the white hat zone and the black hat zone to get ready for another simulation. This time you will see much different outcomes. With Stratagem Security as a service and the cybersecurity mesh architecture powered by the Fortinet Fabric, we will take a modern approach to cybersecurity. Now let's go back to the black hat zone. Let's see how our hackers are going to do now. We have the same scenario. Angelina successfully ran a mass phishing campaign. A user at company X falls victim to a social engineering attack, which allows the shadow syndicate to use the stolen credentials and log into the VPN. It's 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Again, the IP address have been spoofed, and Trevor will use the stolen credentials to log into the VPN. So similar to before, Trevor will use the bookmark to access a server and attempt to gain access to other systems on the network. I'm going to start my timer as Trevor has logged into the system, and he's running some sort of a scan. So let's see what that looks like on our side. So Stratagem has now FortiSOAR, which is integrated into ServiceNow and integrated into FortiSIM, FortiEDR, Threat Intelligence. So we have all the integrations built in and integrated into our ecosystem. With that said, once an alert triggers based on the activity performed by the attackers, this will initiate the playbook. The playbook will then take the appropriate actions as defined in the workflow to take multiple prevention action items based on the defined workflow. So A, it will look for the reputation of the IP. It will correlate the IP information against threat intelligence sources, and if it's deemed malicious, it will block that IP on the firewall. B, it will take the user information, extract it from the event log in the SIM, and use that user information to kill all the active user sessions, block the user so that the user can no longer be used to gain access to the VPN. And then it will use FortiEDR to isolate and contain the host automatically. I will now draw your attention to the Stratagem zone, the screen behind me, so you can see the playbook is activated. We're still waiting on the trigger to initiate and run the playbook. So I'll ask Javed to go into the execution history to see if the playbook has been activated. So it looks like the playbook has started. You can see a green check mark. Those are the decisions that have been successfully made. You can also note that there's an integration to generative AI, ChatGPT, which allows the analyst to capture some information with regards to how to mitigate and contain this threat. We also get some additional context, and it allows us to enrich the incident ticket without sharing any of your information or customer's information with ChatGPT. Now, as you can see in the playbook, based on the who is information for that IP, IP reputation check is done. User session has been revoked in Office 365 and Azure AD. The user account has been disabled from accessing the VPN, and it's now integrating with the Fortinet firewall in order to block the IP address on the firewall. Now this might take a minute or two since it has to commit all the changes on the firewall. It's similar to how an end user or our firewall administrator will log in and modify the firewall policy to block an IP address. And I can already see that the hackers have been kicked out of their portal, so it looks like the VPN user has already been blocked. I can see that Trevor is attempting to connect again, but he's unable to access the VPN. We still have a lot more to do, so we still need to block the IP address and contain the host and enrich the incident with all the relevant details. Now, while the playbook is being executed, if you're wondering what's the role of the analyst, I'll ask Michelangelo to share his screen in a bit. And really what the role of the analyst will now be evolved to that of a threat hunter. They'll be looking at emerging threats. They'll be looking at potential indicators of compromise. They'll be looking at dashboards and building new use cases and building new playbooks for automation. The idea is to make the analyst more efficient and automate all the tasks that would require human intervention and reduce the mean time to detect, contain, and respond to an incident. Now that the firewall IP has been blocked on the firewall, we see that through the 40EDR integration, the host has been isolated, and now the incident ticket is being updated using ChatGPT. So it's enriching all the details in the incident ticket, and since the playbook is now complete, I'm going to stop my timer at 3 minutes and 58 seconds. So we were able to reduce it down from 17 minutes to 3 minutes and 58 seconds to kill all the sessions, isolate the end user device, block the IP on the firewall, and disable the user account on the VPN. And I see the disappointment look at Trevor and Angelina. They're not happy. However, they will continue to run other mass phishing campaigns in order to find their next victim and continue the same tactics and use the same techniques. So, if you can share Michelangelo's screen there, I want to showcase what it looks like from the analyst view. So what happened was the incident triggered, and based on the incident, you can see that there is an automation and integration in place. So if you look at the incident ticket number, let's look at the details for that ticket. So a ticket is still generated and a notification is sent to TED, but there's no need for us to call and wake them up in the middle of the night because leveraging the integration, we can take the preventive action. The ticket remains open because we still need to understand the root cause and prevent this from happening again and mature the security control. You can see that using all the integrations, we have enriched the ticket. Within the ticket, you have all the investigation notes, all the investigation output, so the analyst didn't have to manually type them or didn't have to go in and grab all the information from different portals. It lists down the steps that were taken to mitigate the threat, so blocking of the VPN user, revoking all the user sessions, blocking the source IP, and containing the host. It also gives us some additional information about the risk associated with the IP, the MITRE attack tactic and the technique, and some information with regards to recommended action item, root cause analysis, and how to mature our security controls. So ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize the transformative power of security as a service. The customer remains unburdened. There's no need for their direct involvement. Response time is optimized, no delay or hesitation from the analyst end, no hesitation or no conflict in decision making. Every action is documented in the ticket. There's a streamlined process. And consider this, while the world sleeps, security as a service remains vigilant, operating seamlessly even at 2 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys. That was very cool to watch. Trevor, Angelina, Joed, Michelangelo, Talal, Raul, Fatima, Ted, who else did we miss? John Q. Sandeep and Diego were also part and parcel of creating the backstory to this. So thank you so much, guys. That was very nice. Can we get one more round of applause for everybody? Another special note that Angelina, sitting right in the black hat side there, she's actually a Sheridan College student, interned at Stratagem for 4 months successfully, and now is a cyber intelligence analyst with us. So just want to give her another round of applause. Oh, Gerald and Samarth, excellent. Yes, they are at the back. Can you guys raise your hands as well? Fantastic. It's very smart talent being generated. Did I miss anyone else? The CICN has Michelangelo as well, of course, one of the stars here. All right, so at this time, I would love for Pranch to put up the slide for the feedback and also prizes. Who likes prizes in here? Apple, how about Apple prizes? Even more? Okay. So we would love to know how you guys received this session today. So if you could scan that QR code, fill it out, let us know your thoughts, and we'll be drawing live up here in a few minutes for those prizes. If Catherine, you could make your way up with the prizes and the names. All right, so we'll draw the first winner for the Apple Watch. Let's see who that's going to be. Marianne Mesh. Where is she? You can. Congratulations. Welcome. Okay, so we have 3 more prizes. Let's draw for the next one. An AirTag. Spencer Bronner. Yeah. Another AirTag. Okay. Yuri Salgado. Is Yuri here? Okay, so we'll draw again. Just making sure I don't see Yuri here anywhere, right? Okay. Alex Gregory. No? Speak now, Alex, where are you? No. Okay. Zachariah Attillo. Okay. Congratulations. And the final AirPods. Who's going to win that one? Let's see. Valeria Villalobos. Okay. Congratulations, guys. And Pranch, if you'd go to the next slide, please. So as part of the networking here, it's very important to connect with these leaders that spent time with us today, shared their insights. So we've shared their LinkedIn profiles. I encourage all of you to connect with them, thank them for their time. They are prime mentors for anybody in a cybersecurity role right now, or anybody as well that's looking to implement security as a service. Please do reach out to us and connect. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to do that. Pranch, next slide as well. We can keep these up, we can keep these running throughout the evening. So as well, if you'd like to follow Stratagem on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see the most recent updates, any recent forums that we're going to be putting up, all there. We'd love to see you guys follow us and continue the community growing that way as well. All right, so that essentially brings us to the conclusion of the event. I want to extend a big thank you to everyone who contributed to the success of this event today. I hope we have made it evident that in an era where cyber threats are more complex than ever, the need for transformation is not just a choice, it's a necessity. Thank you again for being part of this critical conversation this evening and helping drive towards a more secure and resilient future. Until next time, good evening, everyone.